Hi, my name is Kira Lescu, the CEO of the Eagle Institute and creator of the Fresh Eyes suite of products. And welcome to How to Hire Exceptional People workshop webinar, where you will learn how you are contributing to your own team's lackluster performance, the first step to upgrading your employee performance, and the next steps for high-level employee performance. During this webinar, you should be in receiving mode only for video and sound, where you will be able to hear and see me, but nobody else should be able to hear or see you. We have the chat turned on so that you can ask questions. So if you are having issues with hearing or sound, please turn the chat on and let us know so that we can deal with any technical issues. And we have a lot of great stuff that we're going to share with you. And we do have a file that we're going to share through chat as well, so make sure that you have that turned on for later in the webinar. And we're going to be covering a lot of material and moving quickly. And I can't cover everything that you're going to need today to upgrade your employees' lackluster performance, but I will cover the most important things that you need to get started. And in the end, I'll share with you how to get more. Again, my name is Kira Lescu, and I have over 25 years experience as an entrepreneur. This is my sixth business, including multiple fast-growing businesses. And I have coached hundreds more on the material that we are going to be talking about today over the years. So one thing I've learned through my own life experience is that the enormous difference that having high-level performers can make to your life and in growing your company, or even if it's not growing quickly, in order to have a sane life. And I also want to talk about what is an exceptional player. I consider that to be someone who's top 10% in the market for the particular job that you need in the role in your business where it is right now. And as you work on this issue, you need to start with the most important roles, which usually are ones that are reporting directly to you. In some cases, that might be a different role, one that's like mission critical to what your business does in order to execute. So I want to tell you one of my own stories, and I do have many on this issue, but this one is my last multi-million-dollar business that I had. We were growing quickly, and one of the key roles that we needed to hire for was a plant manager, so that we could free up the two owners of the business so that we could focus on our expansion plan. So we spent over $25,000 in the hiring process on various activities, and we really thought we'd done a good job. I didn't have that, yay, this is perfectly right, but I thought, yes, we have a workable solution, something that's going to carry the business forward and that we can all grow into and work together. This person seemed pretty great during the interview process. And as I discovered, it was because we weren't asking some of the right questions in the right way, and because we also made some wrong assumptions about what the role allowed, and also because of the type of questions we were asking. The person who was interviewing had just practiced the questions that are typical in interview processes, so we weren't actually getting a true and realistic answer for those questions. So once he started, things went steadily downhill. Nothing we hired him for was getting done. He was changing things that didn't need to be done, and it was upsetting a lot of our top performers in the business. And in fact, some of our key employees were looking for alternate employment at the time. So we fired him, let him go after about 60 days in order to preserve our existing business. We had to scale back and delay our growth plans until we could find the right person. So let's stop here. How do I know that we had the wrong person in the role? And how can you tell, more importantly, when you have the wrong person in the role? Once I learned some of the processes that I'm going to be sharing you at the end of this webinar, I know that I wouldn't have even done a job interview with this person. And I would have saved myself months of grief, and I would have saved the business about $100,000, and even more if you include the lost revenue and the delay it took us to scale up our plans. And one other thing I want to share with you is that, this was a new hire, but you can also have this same situation with people that are in existing roles. Someone who's once a top performer, for a variety of reasons, they can slide back into not being a top performer. Very often, roles change as the business evolves. Business conditions change, especially if a company is growing, but sometimes even when it's not growing, the roles can significantly change. People's personalities change, their lives change, and it could even be like the different people that they're working with change. So expect this to be a dynamic situation, that once you've got a certain person as an A player or an exceptional player, it doesn't mean that they're going to stay that way. So one example I had in my last business, and actually it happened in a previous business as well, very similar situation. We had someone who was, what I would say, definitely, if not exceptional, definitely high performer in the first year. And as the business grew, a couple things happened. First of all, I hired this person knowing that I was going to have to teach them a lot, which I was fine with, because I wanted someone that was going to grow with the business and could learn. But at some point, they have to be able to go off on their own. So two things happened. The business was growing, the job changed, which she knew was going to happen and I knew was going to happen. But really the type of changes she wasn't capable of and prepared for, and was very uncomfortable with. So as the company grew, and I expected her to step up, she didn't want to step up. She wanted me to continue to have a high touch situation, which is more like micromanaging, and wasn't comfortable with the growth in the company, wasn't comfortable with various aspects of the roles that were changing. And so this person turned from an A player into, an exceptional player, into someone who is actually a liability and a detriment for the company. So you have to be aware of, and you know what, this was, no one was at fault for this. That's the other thing that's really important to understand, is that she was suited for a particular role and the role changed and she wasn't able to grow into it. And that's fine. You have to be able to call a spade and be able to either change the role so that it's something that they can excel in, or if it's sometimes that's just not possible and you just need a different person, and that person needs to move on to work someplace else. So let's look at some of the symptoms. Some of the symptoms of having a wrong person in the role are their personal values conflict with company values. And if you haven't done work to be clear about what your business values are, your company values are, this will show up in the way that they don't make decisions in the same way that you do. They don't value the same things that you do. And that's a really hard thing to overcome. They don't have to have exactly the same values as your company, but they have to be close enough so that the decision making is made along similar lines. So one example and again, there's no fault in this. Like, is there a match between what this person is and what the company needs? So my last business, we were doing a luxury product. And at one time I had someone working there whose main thing was saving money. And our core value was excellence in all we do. So we were constantly at odds over this because, we were hoping that this employee would make decisions as, this isn't good enough for me to send out, I need to scrap it and start again, or we need to return it, or, we just can't use this. But they were trying to save money. So they would try to take every situation to, in their mind, save money, which was use stuff that we really didn't think met the standard of what our brand was and what we wanted to put out into the marketplace. So this employee was doing what they thought was right because it agreed with their values, but it wasn't the values that the company was promoting and that what we were selling to our clients. So clearly that was an ongoing conflict. So those are the kinds of things. There is no right or wrong. It's what's the right thing in the right situation. And if you don't have a match, it's going to be ongoing conflict. So another symptom of the wrong person in the role is that it takes them a lot longer to get the job done. Now, I'm not talking about learning new things, like learning new skills. You definitely need to allow people extra time to grow and learn. What I'm talking about is once you get past that reasonable amount of time to have learned that skill, in simple jobs, it may be as little as a few weeks to a few months. In more senior roles, it might be up to a year. You got to recognize when it's, have I given this person the time to learn, or they're just not learning it, or it doesn't matter how much effort I put into teaching, that they're just never going to get it. So that's a sign that they don't have, a natural inclination towards what they're asking them to do. Now, this is a minor part of the job, not a big deal. You're probably not going to get 100% fit in all the jobs, but if it's one of the core things that need to be done, red flag. The third, you're mostly unhappy with them. So as one of my business colleagues and fellow entrepreneurs said, if you're the last thing that I think of before I go to sleep, and you're not the person who's in bed with me, then I've got a problem. So, if you're thinking about it constantly, the performance, or worrying about performance, or you're just, having unhappiness, ongoing conflict, that's a sign. Another sign is that the employee is unhappy continuously at work. And I don't mean that they're just going through a tough period in their life, because people do have personal things that, you are a whole person. You want to be compassionate about that. But on an ongoing basis, is job just so uncomfortable for them that they're really unhappy? Another one, they avoid doing key outcomes for their job. So, an example for this is that if you have someone who's sort of in an accounting or an administration role that they need to put their head down and work, if they're constantly, you find them away from their desk, out talking to other people, they're not doing the key activities for the outcomes of their job. Another one, the opposite is true. Like if you need someone who's really detail oriented and they just don't have that, and they're messing up in the details regularly, that's a flag. There's many others. Complaints from people that work with them. So once you put together an all-star team of high performers, they will not put up with less than from the people around them. So you need to be careful about this one, because you need to look at where it's going. Until you've got a team that's majority exceptional people in the roles, if you have people that you consider weak that are complaining about the high performers, that's probably actually a good thing. If you have high performers that are complaining, you need to listen to what they have to say, because they're helping you. They have the same concern that you do. They have the same objectives that you do, so you really want to listen to this. Another big one is you don't trust them. If you feel like you continuously have to check up on what they're doing, are they doing their job? Now, if you have personal trust issues, maybe you need to work on that. But if you actually hired people that are really great people, and you feel like you should have that high level of trust. If you have people in roles where you feel like if I don't check it, it's a problem, then that's a big red flag. So if you're spending too much time on something that should be delegated, that's another red flag that you don't have the right person in the right role, or that you need some work on your supervisory skills, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. Another sign is they're not focused on their work. And that could be for a variety of reasons. First of all, they have too many distractions. Maybe their life is a little bit out of control. And this is a massive thing in our society because of, we're overstimulated in general. But people should be doing work that they like so much that it's easy for them to focus on. And if that's not happening on an ongoing basis, that's a red flag that you don't have the right person in the role. And they aren't relaxed and happy for the most part at work. So if it's not, there could be a few things. It's job design, which we'll talk about on how to tell if that's the case, or again, you just don't have the right person in the role. So enough about the crap and the things that are wrong. How do you know when you have it right? How do you know that the person that you've got in this role is really the right person? Because sometimes we spend so much attention, pay so much attention to the things that are off in our business that We don't focus enough on the things that are going right. And we actually, yes, you do want to fix the things that where the issues are, but you get your most powerful growth when you do more of the things that are going right. When you put more focus, more attention, more effort into the things that are growing right to make it grow. So what are they? First of all, they're achieving the clearly defined job objectives. And when that's happening, you know that they're excelling. And the second one is that you trust them. We kind of already talked about this in the opposite side, but you have that feeling that I know that if I give this person this thing to do, and we've had a discussion, I know that they're going to get it done. I know if they run into roadblocks, that they're going to get the help that they need, that you're going to hear about it if need be, or other people in the company, that they're able to marshal resources to get stuff done. So you can trust that when you ask for something to get it done, that it's going to happen. So a very powerful habit that you can have that contributes to substandard performance and above standard performance is when you really take responsibility. You need to do that. Even though the other people are performing, you are contributing to their performance. And if you are in they're your employees, if it's your business or you're the one that's hired them, you have the power to make changes. And some of that is through your own behavior. And if need be, it can be changing the people in the roles. So there's many ways that people actually get in the way of the performance of their own employees. And there's a number of them. And I've done a lot of them. And even a lot of top performing like entrepreneurs, business owners, executive and managers do some of these at times. So it's worth looking at to help you move in the right direction. And the first one is you get what you believe, whether you want it or not. In other words, your beliefs drive what you say and drive your behavior, which will influence the people around you. And it will make it true in your world. The other thing is that your mind only cannot see everything that's happening. It filters the information coming at it, including our belief system, and filters stuff through our belief system. So if you have, and here's some common ones that I hear a lot, if you believe no one can do this as well as me, you're not going to find anyone that does it as well as you. This was true for me in a particular role. And then I decided, you know what, this belief isn't working for me anymore. I need to do something about it. And lo and behold, the next person that I hired for that role was actually more capable in some respects than I was. I mean, they still had things that I needed to help grow and guide, but they had skills that were beyond which I had and things that were really key for that role. Another one is good people are all taken. And that can be true to a certain extent. And in the actual program that we have that we'll be telling you about later, we teach you how to get around that. So yes, most of the good people already do have jobs, but that doesn't mean that you can't get them in your company. We can't afford the best people. This is one I hear all the time. And you know what? What you pay and the performance you get really most of the time have nothing to do with one another. If you need to pay people a lot, there's a shortage in your industry, which yes, that does happen at times in certain places. But a lot of times we pay more because we have things that are systemically wrong in our businesses that makes it difficult to attract and maintain high-level people. People are internally motivated. And when their own motivations can come forth, people will work for market wage. And you can get amazing people work for market wage. People want to work in a great environment more than they want to make a lot of money. And it seems that that's not true, but you check out any of the workplace motivation studies, the only time money comes up as being really high is when there's a whole bunch of other negatives going on. So when you deal with those things and make it an attractive place to work, you can get amazing people for market rates that work with the business model of your business. Another one is you feel fearful of working with other talented people. And this one can be really subtle. I continuously have to work at this one, and I've done a lot of work on this one. that it does take a lot of like confidence and mindfulness to allow other people around us to shine and to know that it's still our business and that we're still the leader. But you can do that. So one of the other areas that is a really big place that I see a lot of people fall down, including where I've fallen down in the past, is having really clearly defined expectations, but not just clearly defined expectations, the right outcomes that that job actually needs. And it's ironic that the better you are at that job yourself, often the harder it is for you to really identify what about yourself is giving you success in that role. And that can also be true for other people that are doing the roles as well. And when I work with clients on this is something we spend a lot of time on is, you have to know what you're looking for before you go out and look. So it's like, going on Google, you have to type in the right thing in order to get, the right responses back to get the information you're looking for. This is another reason why we let the wrong people stay in roles is that we haven't clearly defined enough the objectives for that role. And if you haven't, sometimes we have people that's a great person, and we like them as a person, but they may not be suited for what we're asking them to do. At times, depending on the size of your company, you can move them into a different role. Sometimes, honestly, if you don't have that role, you do need to let that person move forward with their career in someplace else. Sometimes you may even be able to bring them back. I've certainly done that with people that have worked for me that I don't have what they need right now, but at a later date, we keep in contact and we bring them back. You also need to really understand the type of person that can excel. And this is another place where people really fall down is that they don't understand the personal characteristics that are required to excel in a particular role. And sometimes it's not always obvious. And we also always have a bias to hire and want to hire people that are like ourselves, regardless of what that role actually needs. So one of the ones where I've seen this a lot is salespeople who need administrative help. They want to hire other people that are like them, that are chatty, high social skills, but really that administrator person, you don't want someone who's got all that. You want someone who can do enough of it to get the objectives met, but you want them to put their head down and get to work. So if you're hiring someone that's like you, they're not going to get it done and you're going to be frustrated. So third thing is you need to develop your own supervisory skills. So this includes mindful listening and mindful speaking, listening to understand with open mind, without preconceived ideas of what the people around you are selling. Clarity of speech, is the message that you're putting out really what you intend to say? And, a lot of people actually need a lot of work on this. And this changed my own company tremendously, by the way, when we did mindfulness and mindful speech. Being positive. I read a massive study that was done by someone at Harvard University about the impact of accurate and positive feedback on employees, and the effect on employee performance was staggering. It was over 50% increase in productivity over the next few days, just by having a single comment that was true that related to performance, positive performance. And using a combination of both compassion and wisdom. So that's combining head and heart, both. But of the two, heart needs to lead, because that's where you get the trust from other people. You can't avoid issues. You do need to speak with them, but you need to speak with them from clarity and compassion. And following that is equanimity. So one of the hardest things to do is when you're stressed or upset about something, things aren't going right, is to speak from an even keel place. speak from a quantumous place. So that is a term that comes from meditation, and it means that even-mindedness, even-keeled. So even though, you know, we're very upset, and even though something isn't right, or also that we're really excited about something, that we can calm down and check ourselves and speak from a more even place, and it's actually a much more powerful place to speak from. And the finally is having a compassion and emotional intelligence, like understanding how the other person on the other end is receiving things, and being able to adjust your message to say it in the right way to get across to that person. Because, you know, honestly, there's some people you need to speak so bluntly, and if you don't speak bluntly, they just don't understand what you're saying. And there's other people that are incredibly sensitive, and that if you speak really bluntly, they won't hear the message either, because they just go into hurt or fear or anger or something, and they just start to, they don't take it in. So all of those things you need to develop, in addition to what to follow up, when to follow up, and how to follow up. So just touching on your own mind a little bit here, because this is really, really important for all of this. Your mind filters all information according to your beliefs, and you need to change those to get better results. Their mind is the most powerful thing in your life, because it creates everything around you in your world and in your experience. And your mind cannot take in everything that comes at it. So it uses filters to be efficient. And some of these are great, because otherwise, like, you know, we would be overwhelmed with the amount of things we have to deal with in a day. But the downside of it is that we all have filters that aren't working. So think of this like a computer, that your brain is programmed like computer programming, or your mind is. And you have some things that are amazing programs that get things done, and you have other things that are viruses. You need to work on the viruses and get them cleaned out and replace them with programs that are working in order to get better results. So if you want to understand what I mean by filters, think of the last time that you went to buy something that was a pretty large purchase. So for me, this has happened multiple times when I've gone to buy a new car, or I start looking at a new car. All of a sudden I start seeing that car everywhere, and I wasn't noticing them before. But those cars were there before. It's just that your mind filters out what it doesn't need to get done what you're doing. But then when you change and highlight what it's looking at, well, you're now looking at new cars. So your mind's like, oh, I need to pay attention to the cars around me. Oh, and these ones match the ones that I'm looking at. Therefore, you notice them. They were there before. They were just in the background. So they were like those programs running in the background. So your mind does that about everything. It does it about your employees' behavior. It does it about conditions in your business. It does it about everything. So in order to change the outcomes of your employees, you need to start working on those filters in addition to making other changes. And you know what, honestly, sometimes, and you'll have to help your employees do the same as well. So it's really important to know how to do this. But sometimes you're actually going to have to change your employees. They are not going to be able to accommodate and to do what you need done as you upgrade what your expectations are. And some of your employees will be able to grow, and you'll be able to help them through that transition. So how much do you need to hurt before you make a change? When you're in the middle of it, you often don't recognize the cost of things are, or the status quo. And working with one client, he had needs that needed to change, along with, you know, learning the skills to source, hire, and find new employees. And his business was actually really struggling, and I don't even know if he knew how much it was struggling. But that was the first thing we worked on. And we worked on the beliefs, we worked in the process that we're going to share with you. But I want you to understand the impact. I mean, hopefully you've seen it from what it was in my own business, but by changing the beliefs, using a good process, his business increased 70% in the 12 months following making the changes. And his working hours dropped by about 25%. Honestly, I think they could have dropped by more, but you know, I think that he didn't want to drop them any more than that. But his business could have grown even more had he been able to scale back those hours even more. So just through changing the police and just through applying this hiring process that you know, we do in this forum that I'm going to be sharing with you later, and we didn't break the bank. We were spending money that the company was already spending, but the results we got were so much leverage that the whole thing went from really not working to working really well. When he came to me, he didn't see a way out. He thought because he was where he was that, you know, he was just going to be, you know, trading one situation that wasn't working that well, maybe slightly upgrade it, but not really getting a whole lot better. But I knew the path, like mental and emotional, and the action steps and the skills that he needed and then the business needed to get to the next level. And all it was hiring a few people, letting a few people go, and using these specific hiring processes in specific feedback and design work in the business allowed this tremendous transformation to take place in a relatively short period of time, less than a year. So dealing with your own contribution to poor employee performance is a start, but it's not enough to get you the results that you really want. To get those breakthrough results that are really going to get you to the next level. There are 6 steps in total, which I'm going to share with you right now. The first one is how you're contributing to the situation, which is the first one in which we covered today. The second thing is letting people go, which unfortunately probably some of you will have to do. There are mental things that you need to deal with, both for yourself and for any of the people that are going to be on the receiving end of this. There's emotional things, both for you and for the other person, getting legal advice, being humane, and mindfully communicating. There's identifying clearly what needs to be done. And in our program, we spend a lot of time on that because it's really important. There's having a world-class hiring process. And I've tried many of them out there with really mediocre and satisfactory results. And then I learned this one process, which I learned about 8 years ago. And I can't believe the night and day difference. And that's why I'm so eager to share it with people, because, you know, I went from probably not even keeping half of the people that I hired when I thought I was doing a good hiring job to more than 90%, which is typical of this process if you do the whole thing and you do it right. And the final thing is, the fifth thing is leading, and how you lead and how you follow up with people to get their best performance. Now, some of you may be really good at this. Some of you may need to work on this, and some of you may actually need to find another person to do this because it's just not who you are and it's not where you are best at. And that's part of this, is understanding where you excel and getting the best performance out of yourself and getting people around you that can do the other things. And the final one is feedback and metrics. You need to be able to track performance. Everybody needs to have an open book so that the people that work for you and the people that as they interact with each other, everybody knows, like, are you doing what needs to be done? So I'm going to share in the chat with you right now a file, hopefully. I seem to be having problems with this right now, so I'll email it out to everybody. Why don't I try this, sharing it on screen with you? Okay, these are the steps right here. So I will send that out to everyone that's attended the call, the webinar class today, to make sure you get a copy of it. So you could do this on your own. It will take you years to figure it out, especially the identifying needs that need to be done in the hiring process. It took me more than 15 years to put all of this together. So do you have 15 years to figure that out? To reduce this time, I created a mentorship program, a mentorship group called Hire Exceptional Employees Masterclass, which will cover all of these steps over 7 months in a small group format. And you might say, oh, I need something faster than that, but you will get individual attention, but it does take a certain amount of time in order to get all the skills and upgrade to do what you need to be done. So if you want to learn more about how we can help you with the other 5 steps in the process, I'm doing free How Do I Hire Exceptional People and Get Great Results strategy sessions, where you will get a crystal clear picture of your current employees, your management skills, your processes and hiring practices, including being specific about how you are contributing to your own current results. You'll uncover hidden challenges to putting those right people in place in your business, and you'll come away feeling renewed, re-energized, and inspired. So to book your complimentary How Do I Hire Exceptional People to Get Great Results strategy session, you can email art@theeagleinstitute.com or call them at 647-774-6454 or type yes, I want a strategy session in the private chat to me right now, and we'll schedule your session right away. The only way that things are going to change is if you do something different. So sign up for your complimentary How Do I Hire Exceptional People to Get Great Results strategy session. It only takes 45 minutes, and you'll cut hours per week out of your schedule and your time and propel your business growth in ways, and your results, your bottom line performance, in ways you just can't even imagine right now. So email art@theeagleinstitute.com or call them at 647-774-6454 to schedule. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you in your strategy session.